Was there any moment in that debate where you moved from where you were going into it in a direction one way or the other? Did anything?
I moved further away from them.
Either further away? That's the only thing.
That's not, it was like this.
That's
like,
the whole
oh my
time.
gosh. Yeah, because
and nobody made a point.
You know what? Actually, I'll tell you this.
Yeah.
Nobody ever made a valid point.
Not a valid point. I said nobody. I was going to say nobody made a point that you could say, "Oh, I understand why you are making that point," even if you disagree with it.
It was more so that I could understand how they feel.
Right.
Because they weren't making points.
Yeah.
They were stating feelings about, I feel this way because this happened to me. I feel this way because I read a book.
All right, welcome. We're going to get into the gift that keeps on giving, Amanda Seales. You may remember her from the very colorful outfit on Jubilee, where she was debating 20 Black conservatives who, in my opinion, did a fantastic job. She was doing the sassiness, she was doing the waving, she was getting loud, she was getting frustrated. And she didn't bring much to the debate other than, you got to listen to me because I'm sassy. But with that being said, she did a recent interview on MSNBC where it seems like she learned nothing. We're giving her exactly what she wants, more attention. Good for her. She's got the eyeballs. Let's get into it. If you're new here, like and subscribe. Really appreciate you coming by because YouTube is a tough game for small channels. Anyway, let's do it.
A YouTube debate show called Jubilee, where she debated 20 Black conservatives on topics from racism to reparations. Here's just a part of it.
I refuse to embrace a victim mentality because that's not what our grandparents and Harriet Tubman and those people fought for. They fought for equal opportunity.
Do not bring up Harriet Tubman's name in vain, baby. Please.
I said the Lord's name in vain.
Harriet
the
Tubman,
Lord's name.
Harriet Tubman was literally saving her family and others from slavery.
Yeah. You know who helped her? White people.
You know who helped her?
They were on the Underground Railroad.
No. You know who helped her?
Come on.
I mean, I'm glad they chose to highlight this specific clip because in my opinion, this young man on the right did absolutely the best because she couldn't out-energy him and she couldn't out-fact him. That's why she had to do the theatrics and the head waving, the head bobbing, the voice inflections. Like, this young dude came prepared and she looked crazy. I mean, she thinks Harriet Tubman did it on her own. Like, that's what we're talking about now. She did that by herself.
No, you know who helped her?
God and
people who benefit from white supremacy. One of the things
it's a lie. White supremacy is a lie.
No, sir, that's simply not true.
People who benefit from white supremacy helped Harriet Tubman. Make it make sense.
I mean,
if that were not the case, then we wouldn't see the continued effort of colonialism and white people placing themselves in positions of power when they do not have the power.
Because their culture, Black culture is toxic. The Black culture is toxic. We have produced a culture that is toxic. And let's get on the fact that there's no fathers in the Black home. Let's talk about that.
Stop.
Let's talk about that.
Stop.
Let's talk about that.
None of this is going to work if y'all are just going to sit here and make up.
It's
not going to work. No, it's a debate.
Widely known facts are now just made up. Widely known facts, y'all. We're just making stuff up. AKA, I ran out of counter arguments, so I'm just going to swerve.
In fact,
Amanda Seales is back with us. I mean, you just said it right there that none of this is going to work if you're just going to sit here and make up some stuff.
You know, I feel like when she's watching this back, she's just looking at herself like, man, I killed it. Man. I got them.
So
I got PTSD watching it.
Oh, I'm so sorry. You had to relive that. The whole internet at least has been reliving it with you.
Yes.
What was your goal? Why go into that space knowing it could go off the rails?
Because ultimately we are in a desperate time of disinformation. Like, I call this the age of idiocy, right? And we know that when it comes to the internets, when it comes to media, there really has just been a commitment to not telling whole truths. We know that when it comes to academia, when it comes to nonprofits, like, it's just not.
I would love, I mean, I agree, we do live in a disinformation era, but give me an example of what is a half-truth. Give me an example of what a half-truth is. Like saying that Harriet Tubman was assisted by white people because they were white supremacists? That's the whole truth of it?
A truthful time. And I know that I'm OD truthful, which is why sometimes people have an issue. But when you are of this type of mindset, when you are a revolutionary, when you know that you have the facts, you are responsible to explain it over and over and over again. That is a quote from the great Thomas Sankara of Burkina Faso. And I know that about myself and many of my peers.
Burkina Faso, shout out. Ouagadougou. I've been there.
Understand that we have to put ourselves in these spaces sometimes and take the bruise and annoyance, knowing that we aren't speaking to just these individuals. We're speaking to an entire audience watching who may never have heard what we have to say, and they need to.
Of everything you discussed, what was the most contentious disagreement? And then what was your most surprising point of agreement?
Great question.
So I would say the most contentious point of agreement was that across all of the claims, because you have to make 4 claims, then you're debating things that are undebatable, but that's another combo for another.
Oh boy. There we go. That's in a nutshell, y'all. She said she was debating things that are undebatable. The 4 claims that she picked, meaning that this is undebatable. It is facts. It is the world as I see it, and there's no way you could change my mind. The whole point of debate is trying to convince the other side or bring them closer to what you agree with or what you believe in, vice versa. So if you go in there with a closed mindset, there's no point in participating.
Time. They all seem to keep coming back to Black people are the problem with Black people. There was simply no concept of cause and effect, of the continued oppressive.
I mean, get your house in order. If I saw a bunch of white folks, you know, just like indiscriminately attacking Asian people in New York, for instance, we police them up, man. You got to start with your own house before you try to fix the world.
Behaviors and legislation. You know, we just had Tremaine here 2 seconds ago talking about the ways in which we are still continuing to see systemic racism experienced across the nation. And they just failed to regard that as anything of impact. And it didn't matter how many examples I gave. I would say the surprise point of agreement was actually more of a surprise for them than me, because the last person, you argue a claim that they have, and they had a claim that Black people should leave the Democratic Party. And I let him talk and I let him talk. And then I said, I agree. And he was like, ah. But ultimately, I am of a mind that one of our biggest misses that we did after the civil rights movement was that we didn't form a third party, a cross-coalition third party to handle what really was really for the people, because the parties have never really been for the people.
Was there...
What's she mean for the people? What people we talking about? Because if I had to guess, if she's going to say the half-truth, I think we just found out what a half-truth is in the same video. I think what she means is she wants a Black party. And actually, if you think about it, there's an entire Black caucus on the Democratic side. So, yeah, it's within the Democratic Party, which I'm obviously not a fan of, but you got the Black caucus. I remember they they sat on their hands while they were honoring a young Black kid with cancer. The whole place stood up and the Black caucus and the Democratic Party sat on their hands. So that's your for the people party.
Any moment in that debate where you moved from where you were going into it in a direction one way or the other? Did anything...
I moved further away from them.
Either further away? That's the only thing.
It was like this.
That's
like,
oh
my gosh. Yeah, because...
and nobody made a point.
You know what? Actually, I'll tell you this.
Yeah.
Nobody ever made a valid point.
Not a valid point. I said nobody... I was going to say nobody made...
Nobody made a valid point in an hour-long video. Not a single point. Not one valid point was made except for anything Amanda Seales said. She is literally... She looks like if you were to copy and paste an HR woman, that's her right there.
A point that you could say, oh, I understand why you are making that point, even if you disagree with it?
It was more so that I could understand how they feel.
Right.
Because they weren't making points.
Yeah.
They were stating feelings about, I feel this way because this happened to me. I feel this way because I read a book. And so I feel this way.
You don't feel this way because you read a book. You gain knowledge, hopefully, from that book. You know, like that's using education to try to guide you towards information. That's what most should be doing. Obviously, not all books are good, but for a Democrat, or in her case, a self-proclaimed black radical, to say that no logic was involved on the other side, it goes to show you that this divide is even greater than we think it is. We do truly live in two different realities. I'm holding up four fingers like a person who lives in a third reality, but if that makes sense, comment below if that makes sense.
But I went in there, and immediately when I got there, I realized, oh, I actually don't want to argue with these people. I love these people. Because this is a very unique version of the surrounded format. It's Black people talking to other Black people. So there's an intercommunal space that's
I don't know how Black she is, man.
happening that rarely gets to happen. It's happening in front of everybody. And I wanted in that moment to actually find a way to display discourse, you know, but with civility. But unfortunately, our internet is...
She wanted to... Oh, boy. Amanda Seales claims that she wanted to display discourse civilly. The one that said, oh, no, you better talk to me like I'm your mama. That's displaying discourse civilly, which is very hard to say fast. Like, wow.
So committed to toxicity that I had to, at certain points, I didn't even show it, but at certain points, I led them all in a primal scream together. I led them all in a deep breath together. And I really tried my best to get across to them that this is about us figuring out how to align and find a way for us. That's why I'm here.
So do you think it was productive, or did it descend into name calling?
Of course it descended into name calling, because I'm human. And I'm sassy, I'm spicy. But
civil discourse, human, sassy, spicy. There's nothing wrong with that. Just call it what it is.
Do you think more people should do this? I mean, some
Yes, please.
Democrats, and I know you're not like by no means like rooting for the Democratic Party, but some Democrats,
she voted for Kamala Harris. I'll put my net worth on that.
Been like arguing about
politicians who do this,
right?
I think
going on with Charlie Kirks and things like that.
No, to me, that's where they're missing the mark. And you said that so clearly earlier in the show, where you say they need to be talking to people. Like folks were saying, Amanda, you should have been arguing with intellectuals. No, we need to be talking with people who are not getting the critical thinking skills. They're not getting the facts. They're not getting the truth. Man. And we see these folks going to town halls, and they're having these, like, I don't know, performance, like live podcast tapings, when ultimately there needs to be an intimacy that we are getting back to. And so in this format, I did get a chance to be one-on-one with people. And at the end of the show, there were people that came up and said, you know, thank you so much. I learned a lot. You know, there was a brother from from New Orleans, who I mentioned Katrina, and he actually left the table different than he arrived. And so I think, yes, it was useful, because ultimately a debate is not about who you're debating. It's who's watching you debate. And the goal is not to change the other person's mind, but to defend your stance in such a way that the people watching say, yeah, I got to go with that side.
She's not totally wrong there.
Amanda Seales, thank you.
Thank you.
Great to see you, Amanda.
If you made it this far, like and subscribe. Really appreciate you. Catch me next time.